So let me
Yes.
start. First of all, welcome. Thank you for joining the second episode or edition of Divine Dogs Interactive. A small introduction of what we do in these sessions. These sessions don't have any pre decided topic. These are open discussions. We have people from all walks of life. We have dog trainers, animal rescuers, animal feeders. We have pet parents, animal enthusiasts, all sorts of people who will join these sessions. And the purpose of these sessions is to discuss topics that will actually benefit others as well. Because last time on our Divine Dogs Interactive, I think Swayambhu was also a part of it. We had discussed some very intriguing topics like the Supreme Court's recent judgment, and what a rescuer's perspective was of this whole thing that's going on. We also discussed about raising a visually impaired puppy. We had Mrs. Anupama, who single-handedly raised a visually impaired puppy. So we talked about her experiences, and we also talked a little bit about the behavior of community dogs. When you're feeding dogs and how they behave. So if any of you are interested in that, the video is up, so you can check that out. And today's again, we've got two people. I think it's always good when we have a lesser number because we can really go into depth with whatever it is that we're discussing. So we'll start off with introductions. I'll have maybe Swayambhu. Can you introduce yourself first? I think you're on mute.
Hi Nilima, I'm based in Bangalore and I grew up with cats and then graduated to dogs. Oh, I've been having dogs for over 20 years now and rescuing for about ten years. So I'm, what do you call, I live with animals. There's not much of men, there's no humans at home actually. It's more like a shelter.
Yeah, just to add also to that, Nilima, she is very humble about whatever she's saying because she does a lot of work in animal rescue. She's been very, very active. She's also, actively volunteered at one of Bangalore's most leading veterinary hospitals. And I think also she recently lost one of her dogs who was 18 years old. So she's actually someone who has a lot of secrets, and I think that's something we will talk about in today's session as well on how, all the effort she put into raising Kalyani.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great. Nilima, can you please introduce yourself as well?
Well, thank you so much. And it was so wonderful to hear about Swayambhu. I think she's doing fantastic work. So, I am Nirima. I live in Noida. And my parents, so I am married in Noida. So my parents are in Greater Noida. So before marriage, I was actively involved in feeding and doing on-spot treatments and no, I will not say rescue because I used to do on spot. And sometimes if it's quiet, I used to bring them to my home, treat them, and then again release them on the street. So there were whatever dogs were there, about 20 of them, just small number near my house. So I used to take care of them, take care of that. But now I thought of expanding this initiative, and I thought of resuming first with dogs since I have experience in that for more than a decade. And now I'm trying to, learn about cows, bulls, and horses, donkeys, other basically the poor strays in the cities, basically, which we find. So, and that is the thing which pulled me towards this call and this workshop, so that I can get some support and also clear my doubts. And I was also parallelly, I thought of reading one book about animal behavior. Uh, it is by a very famous scientist who scientifically wrote how each species behaves and how to deal with them, so that when I'm interacting with them, I can understand what they're actually feeling. And of course, we can also spread that. awareness to other sections of the society, because I think that is what is the need of the hour right now, so that we can deal with this crisis which is happening. So I thought of, getting some insights from you, some wisdom points, and whatever doubts, little doubts I have, because I have very little experience. So maybe in future I'll have more doubts and I'll connect with you again and again.
Absolutely, yeah. That's so nice, and it's good. What you've mentioned. We were talking about it last time. I think it's really the need of the hour is for all of us working in this line of work to exchange our knowledge, because there's a lot of things that people working on the front line, the rescuers and the animal feeders, know, which I am not aware of, right? And there's a lot of knowledge that I can provide from my background of canine behavior and things like that. So it's really interesting, and it's also nice that there are so many people like you, there in Noida, who are working towards the betterment of the stray animals. So more power to you, and we're all there to support you, throughout the country, right?
Thank
So,
you.
and we were also discussing that any kind of initiatives you want to do in the future, if it's to create awareness, if you want to conduct some of
Yes,
these sessions for rescuers, feeders, to understand about behavior, then more than happy. You can count me in to any of those.
and that's
Right.
wonderful. And that's wonderful.
Awesome, cool. So that's nice. I think we've got we've got a rescuer and a feeder. As I said, these sessions don't have a very specific flow. So we're going to discuss a bunch of things. I was thinking. So first of all, Nilima, can you tell us what those questions were that you came
Yeah,
into this session
sure.
with? Yeah.
Sure. So, yes, so two problems which I generally face, and just specifically talking about dogs right now,
Mm-hmm.
is that when we feed them, so they're always in a pack,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
In a lane. So when we feed them, there are always one or two who fight a lot, and it reduces the productivity and consumes more time. So how do I feed them in a disciplined manner so that there is no problem, especially for the neighborhood also? Second is, I thought maybe it's a very wild idea. So just I was thinking, if I am ready to put in that time. So if we can train to some little extent that they don't, uh, they are not that aggressive in nature. Maybe little tame them down. They I don't know why they chase after vehicles. Maybe because of the speed or something like that.
Yeah.
And I also to understand, suddenly they start barking out of nowhere
Mm-hmm.
by seeing a person.
Yes.
So how, in some ways, I can train them so that they don't create the problem in the neighborhood. And also, how do I educate in general to the public, to my neighborhood, that if a dog reacts in a certain way, how should they protect themselves, or how they need to behave? Like, for example, we were doing some small census in my parents' area,
Mm-hmm.
identifying how many dogs are sterilized and how many are not sterilized. So we identified few of the new pups over there. They were like 8, 10 months. So they came very joyfully towards me and they were sniffing me. They maybe recognized that, I am, I have that
Yes.
stink of other dogs. But eventually they become a little aggressive, gradually, playful. Maybe they were a little playful, so I was getting little scared. So I thought if I can get scared, a normal person who's neutral, who may not be a dog lover, they will definitely get scared. So
Absolutely.
then, if I have that awareness, how to deal with them in every situation, if so I can conduct some campaigns, free campaigns, and educate them, so that especially children, how to handle them. That's. I hope I could drive my point.
Absolutely. No, we got it. I think it's perfect. So I think we will discuss these topics today. The first one, I think, being as someone, as an animal feeder or an animal rescuer, what are the uh, how we can create some kind of awareness in the community, especially with people who are afraid of dogs, because this is very real. As people who've always been fond of animals, we don't realize the other side of the picture, The person who is scared of dogs, for them it's very difficult to keep cool when the dog is barking at them. So we'll dive a little bit into that. We'll also understand a little bit about dog behavior when they are out in the open, like the streeties, and why they show those behaviors during feeding time, where they compete with each other, what we can do. And we'll also talk a little bit about training the community dogs or dogs that are there on the street, if it's possible and how it can be done and to what extent it can be done. We'll do that as well. So this is going to be one of the topic for today's interactive. Swayambhu, is there anything you'd like to discuss? There's one topic that I would like to add. Uh, that is, Swayambhu has raised a wonderful, wonderful dog, Kalyani, who she's recently lost, but she lived up to the wonderful age of 18, right? And the story, I think, is quite magical. It's a very special story, so I would really want Swayambhu to share this story at the end as one of our topics
Yeah.
for today's interactive. It's a very heartwarming story, and I've not heard it fully yet, so I'm also excited to hear it. And apart from that, is there anything else you'd like to talk or discuss about today?
So my Gundama is you just clarified, but since it was not recorded, maybe you should repeat because it was a very good inputs, and the change was obvious that both were not attacking each other. She was also not scared. So I want you to repeat so that this session is recorded. Maybe it's of value for others.
Sure, absolutely. So, Neelima, just to fill you in and everyone that's watching, um, Swayambhu is looking after an indie on the street. She's named her Gundama. Now, Gundama was getting attacked quite a lot by some other dogs on the street, right? So she decided to open her gate and open her doors for Gundama. Now, Gundama comes and sleeps inside her house in this terrace area that's sheltered. Uh, but what she's noticed of late is those dogs that were usually attacking Gundama are not attacking her, especially in the presence of another friendly golden retriever that lives down the street. Right, so she's noticed when that golden retriever is coming for a walk, all the streeties flock towards that golden retriever. Right, he's very popular amongst the community dogs, and at that time, even if her dog Gundama steps out, she doesn't get attacked. Right, so she's just curious about this behavior, why this change, why it could have happened. So we're going to discuss this, and it'll give us a little bit of insight about how deep and amazing uh, a dog's behavior can be. Right, we like to think of it only on the surface, right, but there's so much of depth to it, so we'll discuss that as well. All right, so I think we're doing three topics, and remember, it is a discussion, so all of you are uh, totally, you can fill your opinion in, you can talk about something else, you can go on an offshoot, no problem, but only for the sake of the audio, my request is just keep yourself on mute, and whenever you want to talk, you can just unmute yourself and start talking. That's fine, since it's a small number, we don't need any raise of hands or anything. Yeah, so I'm just going to get started. Okay, so the first so today, topics of discussion, we're going to do three topics. Topic number one is what Neelima was talking about. We're going to talk about uh, feeding habits. When we're feeding dogs on the street, when the dogs behave differently, so especially aggressive behavior of dogs during feeding amongst each other. So that's going to be one topic. The second topic we're going to talk about is uh, basically how to create awareness and help people who are afraid of dogs cope with this fear. How do we create the awareness? How do we teach people to coexist with these dogs? And we will do a topic number three. Topic number three will be a little bit insight into a dog's behavior. Basically, this is based off of what Swayambhu was talking about, the change in behavior that she's noticed in Gundama. And finally, topic number four will be about Kalyani. So I think Swayambhu will tell us about her incredible life journey with Kalyani and everything about that. Yeah, so these are the four topics.
I'm sorry, Karthik. I
Tell me,
think you
Nilima.
missed one topic.
Yeah, tell me.
Uh, training. Training.
Yes, yes, Yeah, thank you. So, before we go to that, we'll also talk about training the indies and the dogs on the street, how we can do that if it's possible, and how to what extent we can train them. All right, so we'll get started then. Anything you guys want to say before we get started? Okay, cool. I'll get started then. Okay, so first and foremost, we're going to be talking about feeding, right? We have a lot of people now, feeding. It's really picking up, and I'm glad. Even in Bangalore, every community you've got a bunch of feeders who are making sure that the dogs in their locality are being fed. Now, starting with a positive, this is really good because our dog that isn't hungry is less likely to behave aggressive, and this goes back to the basic of the basic, right? When the basic food resources are not provided, or the dog, those requirements aren't being met, the dog is operating a lot more from a fight flight kind of a mode, right? And in that time, when their survival mode is switched on, dogs tend to do things that might be branded as aggressive. And I think the same holds true for humans as well. So this is not a dog only thing. Hunger definitely can lead to a dog behaving um, very differently from how they would have behaved otherwise. So feeding is a very good initiative, and I think people should be feeding. Now, the issue that happens is when we feed dogs in a pack, very often one dog wants to eat all the food, or two dogs are competing always over the food, right? And we feel really bad about this because we say that, Arey yaar, this guy wants to eat all the food, the other dog isn't getting the food. So we try really hard to sneak in some food to the other dog, right? We try to go and feed him separately, but this dog realizes, he leaves his own food and comes and tries to, bully the other one. These are common things in the animal world, right? In the world of dogs, we have to understand a little bit about pack behavior. When there are a pack of dogs, right, that coexist, the pack is a social structure, right? And the social structure is built on functionality, which means every member of that pack assumes a function either by birth or because of how they have grown up, right? Because of their experiences. A pack remains as a pack because the function is complementary, which means, like, you have in a company, you have you have a CEO, you have a CFO, you have people who are working on the marketing side, you have people working on the finance side, right? The different skills are complementary. The same holds true for a pack of dogs. We have this mentality of looking at everything as, there is one boss alpha hai, there's an alpha dog, and then there is all his followers. But that's very rarely the case. Usually in most social structures of dogs, it's very varied. It's all dependent on what the environment requires of them, right? So the social structure of dogs that you see in a city will be very different from the social structure of a dog you see in a village, right? Versus what you see in the wild. It's all dependent on what they need. The reason I'm telling this is, when you have a group of dogs and there is social structure, to maintain that social structure, sometimes dogs have to use these small displays of aggression. And what happens in street dogs is, why they have to maintain it? They have to maintain it for balance. So when do they do it over all the resources? So one dog will say, agreement, all the food is mine. I get to eat the food first. After I'm full, only you guys can eat, right? Or one dog will make an agreement and say, chalo, you take the food, but all that sleeping place is there, na? On top of that rock, that is my spot. No one else is going to take that. Chalo, you keep the rock, you keep the food. When the humans come, no, they're mine. I want to go and spend time with them. I like social. So this is a healthy pack where they kind of allocate. But very often what happens is, you'll have two members with similar tastes, and that's when the conflict happens. So very often you'll see two dogs who want the food just as bad, who are not willing to back down, and then you get a fight. Usually the fight repeats a couple of days and then it stops. But you know what stops the fight from, what prevents the fight from stopping? It is usually our intervention, as weird as that sounds. In Because we step in and we bring in this element of, oh, poor thing, this guy is not getting the food, and we give support to the underdog. But when we give support to the underdog, we are lifting him in status in the food matter and creating more conflict with the other dog who had the charge of food. So this is really what is happening. So is it a problem? No, it is actually very natural in the world of dogs. It happens quite commonly. But now we can't say, chalo yaar, let's just leave it. Let's allow them to fight. So what is the solution for this? Whenever we are feeding dogs, or when you're feeding dogs, a couple of rules we like to follow. Number one, the dogs have to feel safe in the place of feeding. So, for example, it has to be, if it's a community, if it's a crossroads, if it's a place where a lot of movement is there, the dogs will eat, but the brain will always be in a more uh, high adrenaline mode, right? We want to feed our dogs as much as possible in places where they feel safe. So, the dead end of a road and things like that is healthy. Second, when you're feeding the dog, you want to first make sure that the ones that really want the food really bad are feeling satiated. So, when you feed them, so for example, I feed a lot of street dogs as well. When I used to feed, often I'd see that one or two members of the pack want all the food. I make sure they get a lot of food first, right? And although the other ones are demanding, I might throw one piece at a distance here and there. The majority of food is actually being consumed by these guys. Funnily, if you can do that and they don't feel like it is a competition, they relax, right? And then you can start to keep the food at a distance, and then the other ones will eat. Oh, they won't get enough food, don't worry about that. They may not get enough food for day 1, day 2, day 3, but from day 4, day 5, these guys who ate first will stop feeling that compulsion to take from everyone. The bully behavior will reduce, right? This is the easiest way without intervening in any way. Of course, if these were your dogs, you can teach them boundaries, you can teach them to wait for the food, you can make sure one of them doesn't go. But uh, I don't recommend this for dogs on the street, because you are spending, if they have 24 hours in the day, essentially the amount you spend with them is very small percentage, right? So you don't want to interfere with the dynamic that's going on. You just want to kind of make sure it goes in a way that's minimal conflict, right? So for that to happen, we advise you feed the rowdy guys first, let them fill their stomach, and then the other ones will eventually start getting a chance to eat. um, Tell me if this answers your question, or you have any other clarifications with this, Nilima.
Okay, so what I used to do was
Mhm.
that I used to feed them simultaneously at a like a little different spot. But what used to happen was the bully one used to keep running uh, here and there, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
So maybe what I'll do is I'll feed the bully ones first. Once he's full, then
Yes.
I'll start the other ones. I'll try that out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, with animal behavior, one thing I've learned, they say that, the day you think you know everything about dogs is the day you will step onto dog poop, right? Because you never know, and it's always learning. So my suggestion is, this is what I feel, you give a try. If it doesn't work, do get back to us, because we can then kind of vary it, because there are different personalities, right? No two dogs are the same. And I know some dogs that will eat as much as you give. Sometimes they're full, they are satiated, but they'll just, the very fact that other dogs are around, they've developed this competitive mindset that they need to eat everything. In which case, if it's not working in day 2 or 3, we can try an alternate strategy. But this is something worth trying. So, important, anything you want to fill in, Swayambhu, because you've also been feeding dogs. Any observations? Uh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I carry chicken neck, and I just, just throw it away, and the aggressive ones will go around, and they'll be occupied with eating that. So it segregates the pack. There's gives them distance to their own distance to eat and
Yeah.
have the chicken piece peacefully.
It's good. Actually, this is a very interesting. One more point that I think is worth telling everyone here is, in nature, when an animal hunts, let's take the example of a wild dog, because I think from there we can draw a lot of references. When a dog hunts a carcass, let's say they've killed some kind of deer or something in the wild, or a wild boar or something. The As I told you, there are dogs that for whom the food matters. Usually certain members of the pack, they will decide which part of the body goes for whom. they have that level of specificity. So, for
Mm.
example, the so-called high chemical organs, they say, like the liver, and certain, ones that secrete certain chemicals and hormones, that is first preference. So, first, the dogs that want it the most will take that, and when they take that, they're satisfied. The next ranking members will go for the muscle meat, and some of that. Then the lower ranking members will sometimes go for the other things. Sometimes even the fur and the byproduct, the extra stuff. And the last members will go for the vegetable matter in the stomach, because all,
Oh,
yeah. And interestingly, the puppies are all fed that, because when they're young, an animal that eats more vegetable matter, I'm just going a little off topic here,
yeah.
but an animal that eats more vegetables and fiber and vegetable matter is more invisible. That means in the dog world, if that dog eats a lot of grass, eats a lot of vegetable matter, their smell will not be so prominent, which means a
Mm.
dog that wants to be invisible will prefer to eat
Okay.
more vegetable matter. This will help the puppies, because the
Predators.
puppies
Yeah.
need to be held invisible and they have to be kept safe by the mother. So, what the mother does is she will eat the food and she will regurgitate half digested food. So that's equivalent, and she'll eat some grass mixed with it, and she'll go and regurgitate and sometimes feed
Oh,
the puppies that. This sounds very gross, but I'm talking about
this
wild
is,
animal behavior, right? So when they regurgitate that, that's what the puppies eat. The puppies now have an invisible scent, right? So that prevents them from getting detected. But when you talk about the more dominant members of the pack that want to advertise and say, "Arey yaar, I'm here," they want to eat high chemical meat, right? Which is the liver and all. So
oh,
in
okay.
nature, there is a variety of food. So even with one carcass, there are so many parts which is divided. But we give uniform food, na? What happens is we
Yeah.
give one thing, chicken rice, like that. But even there
Mm.
is a division. Many times the lower ranking members, for them rice is enough, rice and vegetables. They may
Mm.
not. So actually, I was reminded of this when Swayambhu, you mentioned that you throw the chicken feet elsewhere, so the highest value items, that's what they want. And then these guys are okay
Oh.
with the lower value things. But I don't know how we can incorporate this into feeding, but it's definitely worth knowing. So just
But
thought
this
I'll
is a
share.
very good learning,
Yeah, yeah.
the food behavior and
Yes.
how they decide themselves. Very good.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, no, the world of animal behavior is so fascinating,
Uh,
and I think what you see online is just scratching the surface. I think Neelima is
mm.
gone; she'll join in.
Yes,
Yeah,
network.
yeah, no worries. So, what we see on animal behavior in the internet is only scratching the surface, because they have not. You should learn animal behavior from people who have observed and been with the animal for such a long time,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So it's difficult to find that. So very
I
less.
think Karthik
Yes.
should do a documentary now that we have AI. Not that you should go on ground and maybe it's
I know.
difficult to track these dogs.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
You should do a AI maybe AI based
Be really good.
documentary on this. Yes, because see all these things I didn't even know that
Yeah.
the puppies get the vegetable part because of the
Yes. Yes.
risk of predators
Yes.
attacking them.
This
How the nature decides,
yeah, nature is
and we
beautiful.
actually might find it very gross that they're eating their own vomit and all.
Yes. Even the poop eating habit. Some
Yeah.
dogs, they'll come to the vet and say the dog's eating poop repetitively. One of it, yes, it's because of a medical deficiency. But believe it
Mm.
or not, it is a normal behavior for a lot of street dogs. They'll do it for a very specific reason. But again, I don't want to go into too much detail today, so I'll just leave it at that. So people can also churn on this a little bit. That
Mm.
what we are seeing in animal behavior is only the surface, right? And there's so much
Yeah.
more to learn. Okay, so I think that kind of covers the feeding topic. Um, we'll go into the others, because I think the other ones are a little more deeper. So the other
Yeah.
question that Neelima had was regarding training dogs in the community, training dogs on the street. Before I go into anything, I want to just hear, Swayambhu, if you have any views and thoughts on this.
Training stray dogs.
Yeah,
Training, no, I usually use my tone actually,
yeah, yeah.
and they understand very well. they understand. You have to be little firm, when you're telling, maintain one tone for one command. They do. They do understand.
Nice. That's
Because these are really actually a common problem, that there is a pack and one or two don't get along, one or two are bullies. So you need to be very firm. That's, I could be totally wrong, but that's why I've joined your sessions, to learn more, that if I am doing something wrong, I want to correct myself. So please feel free to correct if I'm doing wrong.
No, not at all. See, actually, there is nothing wrong here, right? And
Mhm.
there is just how many things can be right, because even your observation is right. It is true, right? Now, Nilima, to answer that question about training, if you are looking at training as teaching the dog, multiple skills, like technically how they look at training for a pet dog, unfortunately, I would say it's not possible, because with a pet dog, right, it is a controlled environment, and a lot of what we do in training is controlled. We control the environment, we control certain things, we use food, we use a leash, we use certain boundaries, and we kind of get things to happen the way we want. So the learning happens in a very controlled manner, right? We do what we call guided learning. So the dog is actually guided into each thing, whether we're teaching them to wait outside the kitchen, or we're teaching the dog not to jump on guests, or we're teaching the dog to stay and not run behind a vehicle. We have total control over all the parameters, right? Which is what makes training possible. But for a street dog, the variables are many. We are 1% of the dog's life, right? There's so much happening. So even if we were to put an effort into training them, it will not give us the fruit that we expect. There is a saying that the dog will do what they are taught to do or allowed to do. On one side, we will teach them everything we want. Great, that's possible. We can put them on a leash for 20 minutes twice a day and teach them. We can do some stuff with them. But the other part of this saying is dog will do what they are taught to do or allowed to do. The thing here is the dog is going to be allowed. They're in free roam. They will end up learning behaviors through trial and error. They will learn behaviors by observing other members of the pack. They will learn behaviors because of other people. You might be training them, there might be another member giving the wrong kind of feedback, right? So contrasting input, which is why we say we cannot train a street dog true to the word. But if you are looking at, can the dog understand? So training is what? It is building a language between you and the dog, a form of communication, so you can communicate with them. That is definitely possible, right? Simple things like what Swayambhu is saying, every dog understands certain things like body language, tone of voice. There are certain things they will instinctively understand. Using these, you can communicate certain things like certain rules and boundaries. uh, you can probably get them to stop doing some things by raising your voice. But it's not always the case. Sometimes the pack has imprinted on you quite a lot, but sometimes they're quite independent. So even though you raise your voice, they have no reason to stop. They will just continue chasing the vehicle. They'll continue going behind that person, and many times the dog will even do it more when you are there. Some people have noticed this. When you're
Mm.
standing out and saying, hey, 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 don't, the dog will chase the vehicle more. Because in their head, when you raise your voice, you're also getting worried and they are trying to protect, right? So you'll
Mm.
find them doing the chasing behaviors a lot more when you are present. So
Mm.
what we can do, for some of these things like a dog chasing vehicles and all of that, we have to understand the dog's behavior, right? We have to go into the why, right? So our solution is not so much to do with training the dog. It can be if I'm willing to always put the dog on leash and change the dog's whole lifestyle, but that's not what we want. What we can do is we understand why the dog is doing it. So why does a dog chase vehicles? Just to take that example, first of all, a dog will chase a vehicle because they perceive, they have created an association with the vehicle as some kind of a threat or a foreign entity, right? So let's say the dog grew up in an area where vehicles were crossing quite often, and all the people actually were getting down from the vehicle and maybe feeding them and coexisting. Then the dog enjoys. I have a dog in this village that gets excited every time someone comes in on the scooter, because the owner always comes on that scooter. So that dogs not yet developed a negative association with a two-wheeler, right? The second reason why a dog can get aggressive to, let's say, a two-wheeler is because that many dogs have something called a prey drive, right? They have a desire to chase, they like to chase. Now we have made our environments very sterile, right? So usually what dogs will do, they'll chase rats, they'll chase rodents, they have other activities. But what has happened now, many of these things are getting cut down. And believe it or not, one of the reason is because of unnecessary overfeeding. When you feed a dog too much, right, and their food resources are too easily met, they do lose a little bit of their desire to go hunt and chase and things like that. So what happens is sometimes that hunting behavior starts to manifest around all these things. So when a vehicle is crossing, and especially if they had the smell of another dog recently, or the vehicle had the smell of another dog that had peed on the wheels, they pick it up in a second, in a whiff, as it's crossing, and they start doing it. And when one starts, it's instinct for the whole pack to follow, right? So these behaviors will always be present. The only way we can change this is by creating awareness, right? Or by creating feeding zones for the dog, and these behaviors will always happen around the place where the dog eats and rests, right? So if your feeding and resting zones are created away from crossroads and busy roads, that is one solution. Then it'll happen if the vehicle is speeding too fast, because they are the traffic police of nature in some sense. So having a speed sign telling people to slow down might be one of the solutions. And of course, finally, another solution would be to create awareness. I think it's the most important. People need to know, and this needs to be publicized everywhere. What do you do? Okay, you tell the government these street dogs are a menace. 10 dogs are here, there will be 11th dog somewhere chasing your vehicle. You're not going to be able to get rid of it, right? So you need to know how to handle it. So if there is a street dog that's chasing your vehicle, what do you do? The I think a lot of people know this today, but it is, you need to stop, because it is the movement that triggers the chase, and the earlier you stop, the better. As a matter of fact, you'll see the dog gets so confused the moment you stop, because the whole fun of it was the chase, right? And they'll kind of just totally stand still. Beyond this, if there is a dog that's creating too much of a menace, as a behaviorist, my suggestion would be that the dog has to be changed or rehomed, could get adopted into the right home, because unfortunately there is going to be people in this community who are very agonistic to dogs, right? So for the dog's safety, that dog would actually make a very good dog in an estate or some other place, right? So as rescuers or people who are working with these dogs, our plan should be, how can we kind of maybe rehome this dog? He'd make a good guard dog, right? Or a lot of other those things. So Nilima, just because the your network was off, I'm just going to quickly fill you in on this, because it was your question. When have a dog that's kind of chasing vehicles, and you want to train this dog, we cannot train the dog not to chase vehicles unless I decided to adopt the dog, right? So three or four solutions to this. All of these are based off of understanding why the dog was doing it. So reason one, the dog was chasing the vehicle because they've had a bad experience with the vehicles in general, right? So people on vehicles probably have either kicked the dog, or the dog seen something, or has found it unpleasant. If this is the reason, then what we need to do is we have to change the association with vehicles, which means people who are feeders should actually come on the vehicle, stop, take the dog to the feeding spot, feed them. Again, come on the vehicle, stop, take the dog to the spot, and feed them. Right? This will change the association in if it's repeated enough number of times. Right? Second reason why a dog will chase vehicle is because of recreation. A lot of dogs, especially if they've been fed very regularly, they don't get any recreation, right? Usually their recreation, they have to hunt for their food. Sometimes they find a dead rat, they chase a rat, and they hunt a rat. It's there in the indie instincts. If that doesn't get satisfied, they will try to find outlet with wherever they can. So it's night time, not too much traffic, they are bored, they're sitting, some vehicle crosses, they will chase. The solution for this is, first of all, try to feed the dogs in a regulated manner. Don't overfeed your dogs because you don't want to make them so much into a home kind of an animal that they lose their instincts for the outside, right? Which manifests as behaviors like this. And also, it's a good idea to feed them away from the roads, where this is happening. Feeding spots should be and resting spots should be nestled away from the crossroads and the busy parts of the street. Third reason they are doing it is as a territorial behavior, and often you'll see this at night when there's not much activity, especially if your vehicle is carrying the smell of another dog or one dog has done urine on your vehicle. They are very smart in the night, especially when there are not so many smells. They'll pick up the smell in a second, and immediately their instinct is to run behind the vehicle wheels. The solution for this, unfortunately, only main thing we can do is create awareness. Um in one of the places that communities that I worked with, they actually put up boards saying there are dogs here, slow down your vehicle, and they put speed breakers leading up to that place, and it reduced the number of chases. Because what the dogs will do is when they see the speed very high, this chase behavior kicks in. So reducing of the speed, and second is awareness. As much as possible, we need to spread awareness that what people need to do when the dog is chasing, as early as possible, stop and don't look at the dog, don't make eye contact. Because when this happens, the dog will lose their desire to chase. There'll be no instinct. They might bark a little bit and they might go. You move forward. If they chase again stop. So you'll realize if you do this going ahead, their tendency to chase will start to come down, right? So these are essentially the only things we can do. The other final
So,
solution is if the dog is too much of a menace, we have to rehome them. When I say menace, sometimes the community is more of a menace to the dog, right? So in such a case, it would be wise to find a home where that dog's behavior will actually be of benefit. Such dogs will actually make very good dogs because their territorial instinct is high. They'd be good guard dogs at an estate or an environment like that. So yeah, tell me, Nilima, you were saying something.
yes, I have two questions,
Yes.
little related.
Yeah.
So generally, so if the dog is chasing, for example, a motorcycle,
Yes.
right, and if a person is sitting behind,
Yes.
and if they slow down, so the
Yes.
person has this fear that if I slow down, he will bite me. So
Yeah.
then they even speed up the vehicle. That is the first question which I have.
Mm-hmm.
The second question is, I also see that you had mentioned that I raise my voice. Like for example, if a person is just walking by, and I'm feeding, I don't know what happens. They start one starts and the other pack follows. They start chasing that person who's walking, and even if I raise my voice, nothing happens. So this situation gets escalated a lot. So how do I handle this situation then?
These are wonderful questions, for feeders, I think, because very, very real time questions. And I know a lot of feeders face the same issues. So, question number one for motorcyclists, it's definitely a valid fear, especially if they're scared of dogs or they haven't spent time around dogs, that they'll come and bite. Um, there's not really much I can say, but I would say, if you are going to be driving through such a locality, because this is the reality of this, you can rehome five dogs, but there might be a sixth dog on a street when you're driving home at night that charges. My suggestion is number one, as you are approaching, if you see dogs, already slow down. A slow vehicle will not get attacked. A dog will not bite. People need to understand this. A dog just doesn't just come and bite your leg or anything. There is always movement associated with it. So if let's say you are stationary when the dog approached, they are scared of you. Most likely they will sniff at max and go off, or they'll start barking, right? It's the movement. So first suggestion is, if you're going, it's late at night and you see a dog up ahead just standing at the perimeter of the road, there are not too many people, you already slow down. If you're going slow, you will not have this issue. Secondly, let's say you've already started moving and the dog has started to chase. Yes, again, the best suggestion is to stop. But if you are really scared that the dog is going to bite or anything, I always tell people this is an emergency measure, by the way. It has never happened and no one has ever had to use it. This is more done for pet dogs. Let's say a pet dog comes off the leash and is aggressive and is coming towards us, right? Whatever you have in your hand, whether it is a handbag, whether probably not your handbag because you've got your valuables in there, but whatever it is, you have immediate access to, push it into the dog's mouth. Just press it there, right? And just stop. What will happen is the dog's not going to bite that and then bite you. No, it's an instinctive urge that the dog is coming. So any dog that's charging also, right, in the movement they come and bite, but after the bite they're done, kind of. It's almost like a balloon going flat, right? So you need to have something in your hand that you can just put into them, right? This is the best uh, emergency measure to follow, but I think it should never come to this. As you're approaching, you need to slow down, and as maybe if you guys know this is regularly happening in your area, it would help to get a nice board or something, or you get these speed breakers or something that encourages people to slow down as they are entering into a certain community area, and simultaneously try to feed the dog away from that area, because we don't want the dogs resting there and eating there. Sometimes if the dog makes that into their uh, you know uh, their hub, they tend to be more uh, uh, like this in such places. So that's the answer to your first. The second thing, sometimes the dog will only behave aggressively or charge at people when you're feeding them, because what happens is, right now when you're feeding them, you are there, the food is there, there is a resource. It is natural for the dog to want to guard the resource. In the absence of the resource, the dog will not even guard. They would have actually been fine with all the people crossing. And many feeders face this problem, right? Because the feeder is actually trying to say, don't the feeder is actually trying to say, don't chase the person, don't go there, stop. But when you raise your voice, they take it as a cue to go behind the person even more. They think you are anxious, right? So what we need to do in such a situation, first of all, prevention is best. Try to feed the dog at a time where you're not worried about all this. And secondly, when you're feeding, be little less involved. Let it be a little bit more about the dogs and eating, and make it a little more scattered. When you feed in one spot, one location, and you're hanging out in one location, it becomes into something to guard, right? But if your feeding is a little scattered, right, and away from these busy places, this tendency doesn't come. So how I usually do that is, if I'm feeding in bowls, I'll first go keep an empty bowl in far ends of the area that I'm feeding. Then I'll carry the food with me in a bucket, and I'll put 2 scoops into this bowl, and I'll start walking towards the next bowl. One dog will start eating here, maybe 1 or 2 dogs. Then I'll go to the next bowl and put 2 scoops there. And then I'll come to the third bowl. I'll put 2 scoops here. What you're doing is, you're not letting the dog fixate on one spot as a guarding spot, right? Their brain is occupied, and you're not feeding all the food at once. So they're eating, and they're on a guard, and you're standing there, and there's more reason to guard. Instead, you put 2 scoops here, then 2 scoops here, 2 scoops here, back to the first. This technique is something we even follow for pet dogs that have food aggression, right? To make sure they don't learn to guard the bowl. Similarly, it's a similar technique by feeding over a larger area and scattering the feeding points. You will be able to kind of reduce this and be little less involved in the feeding process, because the more you talk to the dog and pet them during the feeding time, you become into a resource, and the dog starts to guard you, right? So if you want to hang out with the dogs and everything, do it away from where a lot of people are, and preferably at a time where it's a little less busy. It is a sacrifice that we'll have to make, but it again comes back to how the dog's behavior is. That's dog behavior as at its foundation. Yeah. So does that answer your question, Nilima?
Yes. I will try that. I'm so sorry. I keep leading to more questions. But so why actually I tend to spend time with the dogs is so that I develop a friendship, so that in future, in case if they have a medical emergency or I need to catch them for sterilization, vaccinations, I'm able to do that. Because they do not allow me to touch them when I'm putting medication, especially oral medication. So then how do I do that if I don't spend time with them?
Bang on. Actually, not that you shouldn't spend time. It's about when and where. So actually, you spending time will not become an issue, but you have to realize that when you're spending time, you are essentially if you should do it away from feeding time is what I would suggest, because it usually your feeding combined with your your engagement with the dog will make you into a resource that will create a contrast. There is no bad guy till there a good guy comes into the picture. It's all relative, right, for the dog. So you become a hero in their eyes. Now the other guy crossing is a villain. Otherwise, he's just a person crossing. This is just a very simple way to put it, right? So when you become that hero, then the dog will try to protect. You're the main role wants to protect you against the villain, which is the person crossing. When that other person wouldn't have been a villain in another scenario. This usually happens around feeding time, right? So my suggestion is make your interaction and engagement times a little separate from feeding. That might make a difference. And other than that, it is always good to spend some time with the dog so you get acclimatized to them, they get comfortable with you being close, because in the event you'll have to nurse them. It is a important thing. Swayambhu, anything you have to say regarding this?
Yeah. I just wanted to tell Nilima, can you just go without food? Because right now, what they're doing is they're associating you coming with the food. So you go without food, also, they'll start associating you as a person.
Sure.
You correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure, sure, sure.
Karthik, you are the guru.
No,
So,
it's all
am
correct.
I right? Yeah, because dogs actually relate to the task. So right now, since you're going only to feed, they are connecting you with the food. So you go without the food. They'll come for the food, but you don't have food. So they let you touch. So that because they are expecting food, but there is no food, so there is no aggression, and you'll still build a rapport with them.
I'll
Correct me if
definitely
I'm
try that.
wrong, Karthik.
No, you're not
Correct
wrong.
me if I'm wrong.
You're 100% right. I'm telling you, right? Everyone.
I know there might be shortage of time, but maybe over a weekend or something, you have to take little time to do one or two, walks with them or something. Then they'll start relating to that, and also that it will lead to believe that not every time you come there is food. So the behavior changes.
Absolutely. No, this is very true, because
Yeah,
almost every time this behavior that we see is always there when there is food in the picture. In the absence of
yeah,
food, it is a lot lesser. Um, Very rarely it will be there in the absence of food, only because the dog still thinks you have food on you, right?
yeah.
But very rarely we see it without food, so that's a good thing. Nilima, you can definitely try these things and let us know, because even your feedback will be really good, and we will definitely share your feedback and how things are changing as well, so that people also are in the loop. Yeah, cool. So we will next.
Because what happens with me is I'm a feeder by foot. I don't have a vehicle. I'm a minimalist. I usually go around walking. So I happen to go otherwise also. And that's why I felt maybe you are not going, you go only to feed. Maybe you have to walk down the lane couple of times so that they start associating you without food.
This is a really good point, Nilima.
Yeah, sure. So actually, I used to spend a lot of time during feeding. I'll reduce that, and maybe in general, spend interactions with them other than food. I'll do both the things. I'm so sorry. I'm traveling. That's why there's a lot of noise, a lot of drops in my call.
And no problem at all, Nilima. We're just glad you could join even in the middle of travel. It's very, because everything you ask is is it raises more questions, and that's good, because that's how we can answer all the questions out there and create awareness. So I think this is a very good point for a lot of feeders out there, that it's a good idea to also step out and just be with the dogs aside from the feeding, because usually people are busy, that the only chance they get is when they go to feed, and that's when they hang out with the dogs. But I think it will really help if we can set aside another section of time where we just go there to just be with them and observe their behavior and just hang out with them. So that's also a lot of fun, something I used to do a lot before. So anyway, so we will just head to the next topic. The Next topic we're going to talk about is regarding creating awareness on this, and I think it is very much linked to what we spoke about earlier. Um, what do we need to create awareness on? Right now, when we are talking to people, we usually talk to them as dog lovers, right? Or dog enthusiasts or animal enthusiasts. The problem with that is that doesn't get through to a lot of people. I've seen that, and experienced it the hard way being a trainer, right? Because when I work with clients, I cannot use my trainer terminology and things because people will not be interested in dogs the way I am, right? So whenever we're trying to address people and trying to create awareness, we need to kind of address their problems, right? So mainly from their perspective, the issues are what to do if the dog bites, what to do when the dog comes running up towards me, how do I prevent a bite, how do I know the dog's not going to bite. So the basic things that we need to create awareness on, first of all, is what to do when the dog bites, right? Remind people that rabies is almost non-existent today, right, as a disease. And what they need to do, last time we spoke very nicely about the pre-exposure rabies vaccination, and for all of you, who's not seen it, you should definitely check that out. We also spoke a little bit about how now the rabies vaccination, it's just 3 shots, as opposed to 3 or 5 shots at max, as opposed to what our families used to tell us generations back. You have to get 14, 15 shots for rabies. So the things have changed. So first is busting the myth, telling them plain fact that if you get bitten by a dog, you don't have to worry. These are the things you need to do, how to clean the wound and how to address the situation. Second is, if the dog is coming to bite you, what do? Whatever you have on you, put it into the dog's mouth, whatever it is. If the dog's running towards you, you're scared, take out, if you're really scared and you can't close your eyes and stay still, take out your shoe and give it to the dog. They'll stop, right? So that's next. Third, how do you even prevent this? Because this is the main thing. We teach children even in schools, if there is a dog and it's coming towards you, what do if you're scared? Close your eyes, don't face the dog, don't move, stand like a tree and count to 10. Open your eyes to see if the dog is still there. If they're still there, again close your eyes. No, dogs are not interested in biting us. It's not like some time pass for them. It's all like, self defense. So no eye contact, being still, no movement, right? Not talking anything, making yourself uninteresting is the best thing you can do. Because if you are having the presence of mind to do this when a dog is coming towards you, you will never get bitten, right? By a street dog. Pet dogs are different. Trust me, more bites happen from pet dogs than street dogs. Because with pet dogs, there are learnt behavior. Some of them learn aggression. But with street dogs, it's self defense. It's plain and simple. It's only about survival, right? So, main thing, no eye contact, don't move. If possible, if you're facing the dog head on, gently turn your body that you're at an angle. At least your side is facing the dog. The frontal body language is a lot more intimidating for some dogs, right? One more suggestion I can give you, but usually people who are scared of dogs cannot do this. You make a very intimidating, loud, scary gesture. It has to be level 10, not a level 1. You scream or you do something or you throw something on the ground, the dog will freak out and go back and start barking. The attack will get aborted in mid thing. But this technique is not going to work usually for people who are scared, because their first instinct is running. That's the last thing you should do, because when you run, again the prey drive of the dog, the chasing drive to chase gets triggered, and then a dog that otherwise wouldn't have bitten is now going to come in, try and hold whatever they can, right? So it's about creating awareness, and we need to do this young, which is why one of the major initiatives that we keep doing is we go to schools. We try to teach children right from the time they are young, where their mind can be shaped. With older people, yes, to whatever extent, but the next generation is really what we can target, right? But with the present generation, just teach them, conduct awareness drives, and let them know they're safe. We have to speak from the perspective of someone who is not a dog lover to get through to them, because the moment you talk as a dog lover, they'll have 10 blocks, because for them the fear is real. So we have to talk about them and say, we really understand, it's really scary, I totally get it, and that's the place where you have to try to make them understand from. this is what I think from my experience of having done these awareness sessions. That's the main learning. And other than that, about animal behavior, that learning is more for the people like you and me and us here on the session, because it will help for the people who are actually working in the field to understand a little bit about the behavior and why they do it, so that they can incorporate. It's just about understanding. If you know the why, then you can find 100 solutions to it. And these solutions are not trainer solutions. Like, the solution of putting a board over there or putting speed breakers there was not something that I suggested. It's what the community did, but after they found out why the dog was doing it. you know so people will come up with 100 solutions once they know the why. And the solution doesn't have to be with the dog. You cannot train a street dog like that, right? You have to work on the environment, you have to work on the situation, right? So that's what I think about it. Anything you
I
want to say,
feel
Sandra?
the environment also matters because we don't know what will happen. So basically, we'll be killing their instincts. It's not possible because we are not with them 24/7.
That's true.
What triggers them to attack, we don't know.
That's right. You'll
Yeah.
never the trigger. Even now, whatever we are trying to understand, it's
Yeah.
only a kind of a, an analogy. We think it may be
Yeah.
this
It's a general one, but
general.
not a specific one.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, this is true for a lot of dogs, especially shelter dogs and dogs that we work with from rescue. Very difficult to arrive at why they're doing it, because we don't have the history of the dog, right? So in such a case, what we do is we list down, as a behaviorist, I will list down all the possible reasons why the dog could be doing it, every reason, and I'll work on all of it. So I will do a control and management program which involves every single um, trigger, right? So if the dog is chasing a vehicle, I will address the territorial aspect of it, I will address the vehicle aspect of it, and I'll do everything. So, right, that's the least we can do, and hopefully one of them may work. So that's really how this is, but it's a lot of effort, right? So the best
Yeah.
things to do is awareness, awareness, awareness. Yeah. So does that answer you, Nilima?
Yes, yes. I think I'll try that. Some of the tips which you gave, right? Close your eyes and all of that. I'll see. I'll experiment and only then I'll be able to give some
Yeah, yeah,
feedback that if
absolutely.
it
Yeah,
really works.
yeah. I know. No, no. It's
Yeah, yeah.
it's very
Just
scary.
one. I think
Uh huh.
I just had maybe you may have answered that question. I would have lost it because of the network issue.
Uh huh.
But how uh, there are also trauma-driven actions. Like for example, if a labor has beaten up a dog, and if he sees that labor or other labor, that trauma triggers and he starts
Absolutely.
barking and become a little aggressive. So how do we? Is there a way we can remove that trauma from that dog? I understand you explained about the vehicle, but there are also human actions. So is there a way I can deal that?
Uh, Good question. Very good question again. Uh, the thing is, sometimes trauma is very deep, especially if it's happened early on in the dog's life, right? It imprints, it literally becomes a way of life for the dog. The only way we can repair such deep trauma is through total safety, which means the dog has to be taken into a safe environment without any variables, and rehabilitation, basically, right? The dog needs a fresh life, a fresh start to undo it. But that being said, if it's not something that's so deep, see, the dog have associations with very specific factors. It's again difficult to arrive at. Sometimes it's people in uniform, sometimes it's the rag pickers. It's very, very specific. These things are a lot of effort, but we can simulate those situations in a controlled way and undo it, the behavior. But you will do 10 repetitions, but in the next 5 repetitions there will be something else. See, the rag picker might have hit the dog, okay, when the puppy was young, but now the rag pickers are not hitting the dog. They might just be saying A, but that A is enough for the dog to think he's going to get hit, right? So the dog will be on guard. So you might have uh, maybe you might have got someone to dress like a rag picker, come, be okay with the dog, feed the dog 10, 15 times, but the 12th, sorry, the 17th or the 18th time, when a real rag picker comes and says, hey, the dog will go back to square one, because these things need a lot of good experiences and a total absence of bad experiences for a good stipulated amount of time, like a 45 days. But we don't have control over that for a street dog. That's why behavior modification, what we call it, or the rehabilitation program requires a total change in environment for the dog. They need to forget their old behaviors and associations, and we have to replace it with a new one, right? So it's a challenge to do. But one thing is, I'll tell you, a dog never chooses fight first as a response. Fight is reserved only when the dog has no other option. So if a dog is doing fight response to everyone, like everyone who looks a certain way, it's because they are feeling in their head they don't have flight. They can't run away from it. So one of the best solutions for such things is giving the dog safety in the environment they are. One of the communities that I worked with, they came together and they did this initiative of creating kennels for the dog, safe spaces. I think there's a very nice gentleman. I think he's, I don't know if it's Delhi or somewhere in the north or Punjab. He used the pipes. This became very popular on social media. This,
Yeah, yeah. He's. I've seen those
yeah, uh,
tunnel kind of a thing where
kennels.
he put in
Yeah, something as
bed.
simpler as a shelter or a roof
Yeah.
undisturbed is associated with safety for a streetie. And if you have these things put away from the street, they all choose to go and sleep there. It feels like a den for them. These things itself will reduce the behavior, even though it's totally unrelated, because in the dog's head they will have to be in a survival, defending, protecting mode when there is no safety to fall back on. So by providing safety, these behaviors should reduce. um, Dog needs safety more than love, you know. That's the truth. Especially as treaty, our petting and love that we give and scratches, lot of cuddles, is icing on the cake. That will mean nothing to the, as a matter of fact, giving that icing without giving the basic foundation will make the dog more unbalanced. They will start guarding people, you know, like we were discussing earlier. You'll find them to actually charge at people when you're sitting with them and all that. So we, our first focus should be on giving the foundation. So food is a foundation, like that. Safety and security is a more deep rooted foundation for a dog. So shelter, actually, so giving shelter sometimes will reduce it, is what I think. But trauma to repair, if you have a dog with very deep trauma, right, that's becoming very aggressive to people, and many times if it's a pack, no, it's not all of them, you find the one that's causing it, you'll be able to, then you know the other ones also will kind of stop if you've got that one out. So if you have a dog with trauma, it's worth even considering some kind of, you know, rescue, getting them into a shelter so they forget it, and then they can live a new, fresh new life, kind of a thing. But again, these things require a lot of infrastructure work and support from the community. So I'm just putting the you know, the knowledge and the facts out there. Yeah. So
Yeah, I understood. But yes, that's a very tough one because we have that cases every odd way,
yeah.
so that's a tough one. But is there any medicine which we can give them to reduce their anxiety or something like that?
There are, the thing is, there are drugs and medications that help to reduce anxiety in dogs. Some of them are just Ayurvedic prescriptions, like Anxocare and some of these things. And you have some which are only can be taken on veterinary prescription. But for such a situation, it will not help because what happens is, this will help when there is a constant stressor for the dog. Like Diwali time, there's a lot of crackers, or car travel, or flight travel. There's a constant stressor that's in the background that the dog has to cope. But these are 1 second stressors, no? So the dog's adrenaline kicks in, then regardless of what drug is in the system, the dog will do the same thing, you know. And sometimes the dog will also, yeah, under the influence of these drugs, I mean, I have personally experienced and seen this, they will be a little more unpredictable, right? So a dog that would otherwise not bite and just charge sometimes may even bite. You'll see dogs that are coming out of anesthesia. You'll have to be very careful, especially if it's like a very hand shy dog. In that phase, when they're coming out of anesthesia, no, they can really bite badly. You know, I ran a vet clinic and a pet store for 5 years. You know, we have seen this directly, that when the dog is coming out of anesthesia, you, especially if it's a very aggressive, non-trusting, hand-shy dog, you just kind of just talk to the dog at max. Don't put hands close. Even the owner sometimes gets bitten. You know, uh, cases like that have happened. So drugs and medication, I would not recommend as a solution, we have to work on this in the long term, which means children need to learn to become empathetic to animals, the next generation, because all this has started in the first place.
No, it's better citizens take some efforts, or we create awareness, because it's not just this dog. They'll come across many dogs. So it's better they learn canine behavior than we sedate these dogs. I wouldn't recommend any medications, whether it's Ayurvedic, it could be labeled Ayurvedic. There might be sedatives which actually might, be very, what do you call, uh, sedatives actually in the name of Ayurvedic
Yeah,
can
something
kill the
very
instincts.
potent they can, yeah.
Yeah. So we should not give any medication which is on for the street dogs to sober down, because we don't know actually what is happening in their body. And without vet's prescription, no.
I agree with this. I think that will not be a
Mm,
solution. But trauma, again, safety is really safety, emotional safety, physical safety is really the solution to it, if you want to put it. So, how can we provide that? I told some ideas, but I guess probably, we can all come up with something. And I guess if
mm.
people change in the environment, the dog will start to feel safe, So, again, comes down to awareness, I guess, as Swayambhu said. So, yeah, so that is about the awareness bit. I think we've. So, since we're a little short on time, I'm not going to go into the depths of animal behavior. So, one of the topics that we planned to discuss was, some very interesting behaviors in dogs, but I think we can do an entire workshop on that. So, I will definitely keep that in mind and probably plan it in the next month or two. Very specific workshop where we will dive very deep into raw canine behavior, not what you see in terms of how to utilize the dog's behavior that we see in training, like how to um, use a dog's capabilities. That's what we do in training. More so of naturally what the dog is and how they behave in nature. So we'll try to do one thing like that. But one topic that I don't want to miss today, without any fail, is I want Swayambhu to talk about Kalyani as the
Sure.
last thing. So, Kal- just tell us, I mean, whatever it is,
I
how.
thank you, but I think you have already spent a lot of time. Sure, you want to talk
I am
this?
100% sure you can just take a few minutes, and I mean, whatever,
Yes.
right from the time she came home
Yeah.
to what your experience has been, and right till, because why this is important is, number one, you're a rescuer,
Yeah.
you've dedicated your entire life to animals, I know that. And also because it's a very interesting thing, because you never thought what she'd be, and then you realize she was a border collie, and then she lived to the age of 18, which is really a feat for a lot of for pet dogs today. Very
Yeah.
rarely we see, actually, uh, we see less and less stories of dogs living to that age. Mostly now it is either a 8, 9, or sometimes in rare cases 12 if you're lucky, but 18 is fantastic. So, and you have
Yes.
another dog that's also at the
Yeah.
age of 15. So there
Yeah.
is definitely some magic that you're doing. So you can just tell us your story.
Yeah. So Kalyani's post in 2010, there was a post for adoption of an indie dog. I reached out, and the dog was adopted by a couple. I felt bad, of course, but I was happy that she's adopted by a couple. After 2 months, or after 4 months, there was the same dog post, but from a Chennai uh, post in Bangalore pages, which said that they wanted the dog to be, they wanted someone from Bangalore, and the reason being the weather was not suiting this dog. So I was like, okay, after 2 months, I'm getting the same dog. She was destined for me. They also were happy that I was taking the dog. And after 4 months, she comes from Chennai, and I adopt her. At this point, I have not seen the dog because the dog had gone to Chennai. I adopted seeing the pic. This is a very important point. Please note this,
Hmm. You have
because
not
as a
seen her.
rescuer, yeah, I had not seen this dog at all. She came from Chennai and she settled down very well. I changed her name to Kalyani because we just wanted to move and start a new life. So I changed her name to Kalyani. She took it up. And I was under the impression that she is an indie dog for many years, many years. And coincidentally, it was just me and her who were staying in the house, because I'm single and nobody else. And after a couple of years, many people were referring as, oh, she's a collie, she's a collie. Like, I was not interested in, I mean, I didn't know much about that breed. And I just Googled, like, let me just get over this. What is this collie? And she was a replica of that. So I'm just doing plus and minus here, because the rescuer had told she was given away because the owner had a kid. So I think it's because of the hair, because the collie hair is really long, and they would have given her away because of the hair, and the hair was cut. That's why she looked like a indie dog. The pick also was like an indie dog. The rescuer also didn't know that she was a collie. And now at this point also, I didn't give her away because she had a long hair, because I was looking for a short hair. Why I'm specifically telling is because people give away after buying breed. They'll tell, I have allergy, my kid has allergy, all those things come. It's That's very heartbreaking actually. And if she was one man dog, and coincidentally this environment was also such, and she would not let anyone else take her on leash. Like, my nephew stayed with me during his studies. She would sleep next to him, but for walking the dog, only me. She wanted the collar to be put by me, and she would come only with me for walks. So for a short time, I had started a dog walking service also. Because of her behavior, I felt there's something in me that she wants me to take her for walk. So I did it for some time. It was a wonderful experience. So this dog lived for 18 years, and then but she is not okay with other dogs or cats. I have rescued, and I have kept them separately in separate rooms. That is one thing she was very clear. That's your passion. I don't want to make it mine. She is a very expressive dog. Uh, she is very clear. Like, there is no muska or chaska and all. She is very clear. That's your dog's. But she would not sleep till I sleep. She would wait for me, even till I sleep. She will not close her eyes. So that was a very emotional dependency was there from her side. And till 18 now, when she died also, till last day, she wanted me next to her. At night, when she sleeps, she'll ensure that I am next to her, because she knows that I'll be on the system or something which she hates. And she used to make sure that I sleep, and then she'll sleep. So there was a lot of connect. We had a communion, I would say, not a communication. There was a communion. So definitely I miss her, but I think she's lived her life. 18 years was thanks to my vet, actually, Dr. Pampapati. His prognosis is never goes long, and early diagnosis of her arthritis, where the medication was given, even the creatine, because he checks the blood, and creatine was controlled at a very young age. So vets matter a lot, I would say. So from my point, yes, pet parent, but also vets. Early diagnosis can uh, uh, take care of their health. And most importantly, spend time with your dog. The more time you spend with your pets, the more you will know their body language, what is wrong with them, what is right with them. Because I really don't like people sending the dog for walks with the maids or drivers, because poop has a lot of things to tell. There could be blood, there could be loose motions. So going, you'll get to know about your dog, their behavior. And just getting a dog and living with somebody in the domestic help and all, it's that's not the way you should be.
Yeah.
You should spend time.
Absolutely. So right. And so many golden points you put there. But why did you name her Kalyani? Can you tell anyone?
Kalyani, I
Such a
love
beautiful
that
name.
name. Yeah, Kalyani, I love that name, and it is actually, goddess Saraswati, and she used to love going out. I didn't know she was a farm dog. Actually, border collies love to go out. They need some, vent. She used to love going out. She would wait for her walks. So I named her Kalyani because in my mother tongue, there's a phrase called Dingdi Kalyani, the one who goes out, who loves to go out like a tomboy. So I named her Kalyani, and personally, I loved that name. Sanskrit word. Oh, very few people name actually because of that phrase. In Konkani, I'm a Konkani. I hail from a Konkani community. Very few name Kalyani because of that phrase, because it's like a tomboy. So I named her Kalyani.
Wow, really amazing. And actually, just couple of points I wanted to just tell everyone that the two reasons of longevity for a dog. Uh, One thing, of course, three reasons I would say. Of course, the veterinary support is really, really important because having a good vet is a friend to your dog right from day one, just like a trainer or a behaviorist. So they are going to be your guides. So proactive care is really important rather than waiting for something to happen. Just regular checkups. We always say you don't have to have a problem to go to the vet. That's when dogs develop a bad association with the vet. You're only going there when there's a problem or they have to get a prick. Just frequent checks to the vet is healthy. The dog will also develop a good association. So that was one. Now, with regards to longevity, there are two things: good nutrition, good nutritious diet, and second is a stress free lifestyle. I think Kalyani had a life where she was allowed to be herself. One of the main thing is people are not in terms with the personality of their dog, right? We are wanting something more or something else, right? Every dog is truly perfect in the way that they are. Rather than trying very hard to change the personality, if we allow them to blossom in their personality, they will have a stress free life. They'll be very joyful, and that personality may not want to meet people. They might want just you. They may want their own space, but that's beautiful. You need to embrace that rather than brand it as a problem. Today the whole training system is based off of creating a standard that a dog should be like so and so, and trying to work towards the standard. See, that is okay when you're training a dog for the police or you're training a dog for detection or a particular task. But for a companion dog or a pet dog, what's beautiful is there is no perfect. Every dog is unique and beautiful. Your job actually is to just embrace that personality and explore each other's behavior to the fullest. And I think Swayambhu did that so beautifully in her life. And
Yeah, I don't like to impose because I myself don't like to be imposed. I am a free thinker.
yeah, yeah,
Basically, I'm an artist. I don't like any rules and regulations. I'm
yeah, yeah,
used to cats also, so
yeah.
I'm not used to giving that kind of
Yes,
dog training or something.
absolutely.
I wanted her to live her life. So even when I rescued the other dog,
Yeah, yeah.
that dog was used to living in a small passage.
Hmm.
For 4 years, she was in that passage, which she didn't leave.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I got her home, I knew that she would be comfortable in a room because I was giving her a palace compared to that 2 feet, passage. So I didn't want to impose Kalyani with another dog because she
Yeah,
that doesn't fit her personality.
absolutely.
Nor this dog was suffering because she was used to that 4 by 2 feet passage for 4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So and she is happy in that in
In the
her
same.
room, even if the door is open, she doesn't come out.
This is really true. Sometimes we try to give dogs a lot, or not, I would say lot, different things based on the lacks that we are feeling in life. I have seen this personally. Lot of times, what you're trying to fill in for the dog is a lack that you feel deep inside, right? So you have to give that to yourself, and you have to give the dog what they want, right? And actually, dogs do this beautifully. Our venture is called Divine Dogs, Dattatreya Divine Dogs, actually.
Mm.
And the whole ultimate, I would say, the apex of the dog human relationship is that when you are totally at terms with who the dog is, and the dog is totally
Yeah.
at terms with who you are, and that's what we work towards. Swayambhu is a perfect example with Kalyani, and I know for a fact that Kalyani is going to be with you because I have personally experienced this, and I know even now as I do these sessions, my dog Cleo is literally speaking through me. or making these things happen. So I think even in all
I
the
want
work.
to add one more thing,
Yes,
Karthik, which
tell
is
me.
very important. I'm
Yes.
sorry I'm taking your
No,
time.
no, 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 no.
Couple of years back, I had an assignment for painting. Okay, I'm telling this because the way people tell they spoil the furniture, they do this, so, it is quite annoying. So I finished the painting and I kept it. It was an assignment for a bank.
Hmm.
I had to deliver it
Hmm, hmm.
and I kept it on the fridge because in ink work, I left it there for it to dry. My cat comes and pees right on that, and it's a ink work. It just slips, so that painting is gone. I had to do one more, and the entire, it was a set of 8 painting. I got it framed and I left it there. At night, what my dog did, the frame is chewed up. One of the paintings, the frame was chewed up. So always
My God.
remember, no, I would have lost a little cool. Of course, I
Of
didn't
course. Yeah, yeah.
beat them up and all.
That's right.
But people should remember, if Newton could lose his papers, research papers, we are nothing. You should not get angry with them. I
I
wish I had sense to keep that, artwork, what
Yes,
the
that's
did.
this story with that artwork. That is $1 million painting. Okay,
Yes.
and actually, uh, what you're saying, we experience it so much. Again, we keep saying divine dogs, and what we're saying is many times, no, the dog is doing certain things to our life, which the dog is directing you to where you should be, right? Which we don't realize. Some of the biggest decisions that both Lav and I, my wife and I, have made in our life have been because of dogs. And at that point, you wouldn't even fathom what it can lead to, right? That's why we really think, as the it's God spelled backwards, right? So it's really just a messenger. I mean, this is true with all animals, but because we've been so involved with dogs, we've experienced it with dogs, and it's really magical. So sometimes they make us do the most insane shifts in life. They do the most preposterous things that can drive us crazy, but someday we will realize that that's the best move that could have ever happened. So I mean, it's really beautiful. So I'm so glad you shared this amazing story with us.
Yeah.
um, so I think we are a little we've just extended over time, but I think
Yeah.
it's totally worth it. It is an amazing story. Nilima, anything you'd like to say? Thank you for staying on the call even though you're traveling.
No, no, but I am so, so, so happy to be a part of this session. Learned so much, and I think so grateful and to meet such genuine, enthusiastic, sharing and not caring that we have a session or we have a timeline, something like that. So, and I'm going to listen to this recording again. Definitely, because I think I'll be learning a lot more and I'll make some notes. And I'm definitely, please, it's a humble request that do intimate me about your future workshops. I will definitely join them. And if possible, if I can get some recordings for the past, I'll be happy to hear them as well. So, yes. And I'll note my observations and get back to the other third session so that I can clear my further doubts. So happy to be part of it.
Thanks, Nilima. Thank you so much. I think that's really what we are doing it for. I think all of us are doing it for the same reason, and the whole reason we are doing Divine Dogs Interactive is we want such a space, not because in the workshops it's just we're just covering it's just one-sided, and then people ask questions, but these interactive sessions that we're planning every week, every alternate weekend is mainly for this. So yeah, we'll definitely share a recording. We'll have it up, and thank you so much. Even I've learnt a lot because would have never brought up these questions anywhere else. No one would have, I would never talk about animal feeding and these behaviors, or I would have never spoken about these things. And some of these things just come when it is an open ended discussion. So, and Swayambhu is an artist as well. Just she's a rescuer. She's doing a lot of amazing work. We'll put a little bit about her as well. We've put it in the previous interactive as well. You guys can check her out. And also she's doing wonderful work, and she does paintings. I am going to get a painting done from Swayambhu now because I know if
Sure.
animals are involved in it, I will pay more for that. So
Thank you.
I will definitely get a painting from her, and you guys can check her out. We'll share some links below. So thank you so much for attending this session. We hope to do so much more. Doesn't
Thank you,
matter.
Karthik. You have extended 1 hour.
So
You are so nice, I'll tell you.
no,
If
it's a
it was
pleasure.
anybody else, it matters, man. Thank you so much.
No, no,
I
it's
will definitely be joining future sessions. It's
awesome.
really interesting
Yeah, it's just the
because
beginning.
the
So I'm
food
hoping
which I
you.
would have forgotten, it's like a refresher. Like the painting one, I
Yeah,
totally had forgotten that the cat had peed and dog had chewed the frame.
yeah, yeah. No,
So
it's a
this is
wonderful
a
story.
refresher.
So anyway,
Thank
then,
you.
yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so
I'll
much,
not take
Nilima.
more of your time.
No, 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 not at all.
Thank you,
It was my
Nilima.
pleasure.
Do join us with that feedback that we gave on that dog. I am
Definitely.
interested. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Cool. All right. Okay, then,
Yeah.
everyone. See you. Have a
Bye
good
bye.
evening. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Bye.